Hello and welcome to Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, where I discuss the future of this region humongously blessed with hydrocarbon resources. Every week, we give some time to reflect on topics that are relevant to the development of the Niger-Delta and her people. Now, this episode, no different. I'm here to focus once again on how to take our region to a more promising future. Now, this podcast is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC Renaissance Total Energies Ajib joint venture, Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited, headquartered in Port Harcourt. Thank you for joining. I'm Adedayo Elushakin. Our topic for this episode is Beyond the Barrel, Renaissance's Community Renaissance. In this episode, we're stepping beyond the old rigs and pipelines to explore a different kind of energy, human energy. At the heart of Renaissance Africa Energy Company's operations is a department that doesn't just manage relationships, it builds futures. The NGO Relations and Sustainable Development team is quietly transforming how business and community intersect. From healthcare donations to stakeholder dialogues, from youth empowerment to environmental stewardship, this department is redefining what corporate responsibility looks like in the Niger-Delta. So today we ask, how does a company balance profit with purpose? How do strategic partnerships with NGOs shape outcomes for both communities and the business? And what does this mean for the future of energy in Africa? Let's dive into the story of Renaissance's Community Renaissance. Again, a topic for this episode is Beyond the Barrel, Renaissance's Community Renaissance. And my guest is Francis Asuk. And Francis Asuk is Crisis Management Advisor, NGO Relations, Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited. Francis, hi, welcome to Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable.
Thank you very much, Daya. Glad to be with you on Canvas today.
Let's start from the very basics. What is the role of the NGO Relations Departmental team of Renaissance Africa Energy Company?
Thank you very much, Dayo, and indeed, thanks viewers for being part of the program. I think, first of all, let's talk about what NGOs do, who they are. NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are independent, non-profit entities that operate separately from governments. And they focus on various causes, including human rights, environmental conservation, education, healthcare, community development, things like that, so that they sort of follow the right causes. And they work outside of government. And their role is essentially to help or to pressure, the business or government or the entities that they have relationship with to be able to achieve what they want to do. Now, for us in Renaissance, the NGO relations team, our work is to identify, the work of these NGOs and try to build a relationship with them in order to enable them achieve their purpose and enable the business also relate with this level of stakeholders. Indeed, they are stakeholders because their role is vital. And what we do is also important. Renaissance is an energy company, and then we have a broad footprint across the Delta. And we play a key role in Nigeria's energy future. And therefore, what we also do, we work in communities. And indeed, clearly, these interrelationships have some impact one way or the other, positive or negative. And so we find value in relating with NGOs, because we think that in working with them, we'll be able to build a more sustainable future, both for the business and for the community. So that's basically what we do. So we work with them in these areas, try to help them understand what we do in Renaissance, try to find how we will find value in what they do, try to meet minds, where they have questions, we try to provide answers to. And we also ask questions where we do not understand, because our business is oil and gas, essentially. And therefore, we need these experts or subject matter experts to be able to help us navigate, if you like, that terrain in ensuring that at the end of the day, we have a robust relationship that is positive and, that sort of enables the business and build the country, the future, the kind of future that we're looking for in the Niger-Delta and in Nigeria. So, and we think it's a positive relationship. So we'll continue to work at it.
And Renaissance has quite a number of community interface departments and teams. Why was NGO relations set up specifically? Why? And how does it align with the broader goals and vision of the company?
So, so in Renaissance, we have the Relations and Sustainable Development team, that's like our directorate. And therefore, the NGO relations would focus essentially in dealing with a large NGO community we have in Nigeria. For instance, we relate with the Nigerian Network of NGOs, which is one coalition that has over 3,000 NGOs in Nigeria, dealing with different themes, children, people with disabilities, agriculture, health, etc. So when we relate with this kind of coalition, it enables us to not only address their interests and their concerns, it also enables us to bring them into our space for them to understand what we do. We also relate with environmental NGOs. They're interested in what we do. They're interested in the environment, how we demonstrate environmental stewardship. How do we work with the communities and of course the environment to ensure that it's sustainable, it's available today, and it's available for the future. So we necessarily have to work with them to build that level of understanding. And of course, that there are different kinds of NGOs. Mm-hmm. There are development NGOs that are just ready and interested in working with you, to build understanding, collaboration. And of course, then you have those who do advocacy. Sometimes we call them campaign NGOs. They're just out there to, push their agenda, sometimes very hard, and then many times organizations find it a bit uncomfortable when they stage, at your gates, for instance. But again, somebody in the organization has got to relate with them to find out what do they need, what are the areas of concerns, and work those patch together. So you see that for us as the NGO relations team, we have to work that patch together. Sometimes it's the NGOs that relate with physically challenged people. They want to find a space in that relationship, and they want us to build that understanding, that partnership, and we have to do that. Sometimes it's in health, the area of healthcare. They want us to support them in pursuing their health initiatives and so on. And as a business, we're available to do that. One thing we have to understand is that as Renaissance, we're a force for good, and we want to remain a force for good. So, the business, for instance, in the past, we've been involved with governments, for instance, in dealing with national health emergencies, like when we had the Ebola virus, you remember in those days, and even much more recently, the COVID-19 pandemic. Business had to step in to help government, to help us contain the challenge in order to save society. At this point, so that's where we step up, and demonstrate that value that we bring. We're not just there to do oil, but we're there to help society, sustain itself and renew. So you find that it's necessary that we build those kind of strong relationships that actually help society to progress.
You mentioned earlier, and I believe rightly so, that our business essentially is oil and gas. So it would make a lot of sense to interface with NGOs whose focus is environment, or advocacy that has to do with the environment. Mm. Why take out put in the extra effort to interface with other NGOs whose focus is somewhat largely different?
Yeah, because we don't exist in isolation. We're in the community, and the welfare of the community is good for business. Again, we also demonstrate respect for people, human rights. Human rights NGOs. We have to respect. In the course of doing your business, you must respect human rights. And it's about people. So we necessarily have to deal with them and listen to their concerns. The United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, the second pillar of it actually states that businesses should respect human rights. And what this simply means is that you need to show understanding in the environment where you work, demonstrate concerns for the needs of the people, identify impacts where your business, has, affected them, and find solutions to them. You understand? I mean, we do oil and gas, so we drill, we explore, we do dredging and things like that. Sometimes we lay pipelines, and then we transport hydrocarbons for the benefit of the nations. But in doing this, sometimes there will be impacts on the environment. Sometimes oil spills will happen. And of course, like we say in the Delta, it's a sort of concern for us because a lot of these spills are, as a result of what third-party actions. People breach those lines deliberately for whatever reasons, for theft, for their economic benefits, for agitation and things like that. And when that happens, as a responsible business, you have to still step forward and do what has to be done to restore the environment, to do cleanups, and then, and where people's lives have been impacted, we have to meet them at the point of their needs to help, reduce that impact. That's what responsible stewardship is about. So as a business, we go ahead to do that. We don't just say our business is oil and gas or we do energy. Yeah, therefore, whatever happens, we're not interested. No, we have to be interested. And we demonstrate that interest. And so we relate with these NGOs, for instance, the National Human Rights Commission or other NGOs that are interested in one aspect or the other of our business. We demonstrate, we build a strong relationship with them so that, we can have shared understanding, shared value, and we learn from their perspectives. We do not, we have that learner mindset. What we don't know, we learn. And we bring that knowledge into the business to help improve our overall performance.
The NGO relations team of Renaissance is constantly engaged or involved in engagements with stakeholders, NGOs, communities, quite regularly. I must confess, I don't envy you and the rest of your team. I know you're constantly out of office, traveling, going for engagement and all of that. And sometimes these engagements are quite heated indeed. What have been some of the key outcomes of these engagements with these stakeholders?
Yes, something we deal with human beings. And sometimes, some of the things that result in this are issues like representation, for instance. So, we want to meet with 10 persons, and then from the community. And when we get to the meeting, all the 10 representatives are from one ward of the community. The rest of the other 5 wards of the communities are not properly, there's no balance in the representation. People will necessarily complain. Don't you think so? It's everybody, it's inclusion. We want to be, so we then take time to sometimes, see how that can be resolved. And sometimes those arguments can be heated. Sometimes people, the arguments are even deeper around ownership, around who's right, who's wrong, But for us, whereas we may not be very much interested in the details around what's happening in the community, we still take that responsibility to see that relationships are built. Where there are grievances, we listen. So, in the business, we have our grievance handling mechanisms. If you have a complaint, if you have an issue, you report back to the company. You let us know. We have community relations officers in different parts of the business, listening to the people, providing solutions, answering questions. We may not have all the answers, but where we don't have the answers, we promise them that we'll go back and check. And we do go back and check and bring feedback. That's what builds relationship. So, as for us as relations and sustainability, we're the face of the business. We are right there in the communities. Of course, that we play the lead role when we want to enter virgin communities, for instance. We want to go in and drill oil. You don't just move in with your rigs and so on and you say, well, this is national business, and you start digging. No. You have to talk to those who own the communities. We have to build, have that freedom to operate. It's called free, prior, informed consent. We talk to them and say, we want to come into your community. We think that there may be something good here. Do you want us to come in? What does it take for us to come in? And then we strike that kind of relationship. We have a handshake, that says, okay, come in. In the past, we used to do that using the GMOU model, the Global Memorandum of Understanding. Now, and that was a beautiful initiative by the company. But now, we now have the Host Community Development Trust, HCDT, which is the product of the Petroleum Industry Act. So now it's a government initiative. It's a demand. Before we were doing it as corporate philanthropy. Again, that shows, a responsible business operator. But now we now have a law that says do that. So it becomes a performance thing. So we go ahead to do that, to create that relationship, to set up the host community development trust, which is a group of persons in the communities that help to sit in the driver's seat of their community development initiatives, driving what their aspirations with the support of the business. So we pay in what the government says you should provide to enable that to happen, and then we work with them to sort of achieve, community harmony, peace, and progress. Everybody's got to be on the table. So this is what we do as relations and sustainable development. So we create that access for the business, and Renaissance is very committed in doing that. We want to ensure that our communities are happy with us. We want to ensure that where there are issues, we're able to manage it together to the position where everybody is happy. The benefits of the business goes to everybody. That's what this relationship is all about.
I'd like to hear more specifically about the key outcomes of these engagements. So we'll come back to that momentarily. Just from what you just said, I'm picking that the NGO relations team also interfaces with communities directly. But as you also rightly mentioned, we have the CROs, community relations officers. We have an entire team that handles interface with communities. We have HCDTs as well. So does the NGO relations team also interface directly with communities and not just NGOs?
No, we do not interface directly with communities. But again, we interface with NGOs. Okay, so again, but the NGOs sit in communities. I mean, they're in the business environment. We provide support also to the rest of the other teams, like the community relations team, the HCD team, for instance. We support them by providing additional capacity building for the HCDTs. For instance, we deliver human rights components of the HCDT trainings. So we because that's part of what we do in the NGO human rights issues space. We have the expertise for delivering human rights to the business. We do that, and we've done that over the years with the support of international human rights organizations like the Danish Institute for Human Rights that help us, in walking the path. So, and we've got human rights champions in the business that also help drive awareness. So we've sort of have a team of SMEs, who understand business and human rights, and we use that to further educate the teams that interface externally in the business, not just communities. Various teams in the organization, the security organization, for instance, that also have a line of relationship with, our host communities. I mean, you know that when security people work in your space, in your patch, you need to properly let them know how you want to operate so that they don't go out of line. You understand what I mean? I mean, for instance, if you have there's a drilling operations and then necessarily you have a security team working, and then we depend on government security agencies to support us. We don't have our own security team. We rely on government security. And if you understand the Nigerian context and the fact that our security agencies sometimes can be quite outgoing, we want to ensure that they work within rules of engagement and regulations. And it's quite a tough environment out there. We must appreciate the works that these guys do in a very difficult environment. However, there's a way we want the business to be done. We don't want somebody, a security team that is here to support us mounting roadblocks by the roadside, for instance, and asking Okada guys to be, settle them in 2029 and things like that. Do you understand? That would be completely outside, the rules of the business. But if you don't take care of that and there's an issue, it will be said that the security team that came to support Renaissance is collecting toll gates, for instance. I'm just using that as an example, on the side. You don't want that to happen. So you could have impacts, or impact on our reputation on account of things that you do not want. So we provide knowledge, we provide training on the voluntary principles on security and human rights, which is part of the initiatives that we use in the business, to sort of ensure that our relationship with the public is guided by international best practice.
can you describe or mention one key outcome, of course, positive, uh, as far as the NGO relations team's interface with NGOs specifically?
Oh, beautiful. So at the Nigerian network of NGOs, they've been quite happy with the way we've brought awareness with the business. They've even been on Canvas, previously to also talk about what we do. They help, The other point also is the relationship we've had, for instance, with the National Human Rights Commission has been very positive. They help us, so we provide that interface because people bring complaints and reports about communities go to them to report issues and so on, and they relate with us. They engage us, and we're able to, for instance, we're a large organization, so we're able to go to the part of the business where the complaint is and say, can you provide clarity? What's happening here? And then we use that to interface with the commission. And they're quite happy most times with that type of relationship. What we want to do is to sort of build a positive relationship. And that's very good. The other bit is that you also notice that sometimes, in the area of environmental management, we relate with the likes of the NAGOND and the Secular Democracy Network and things like that. And sometimes in the past, when there were concerns around oil spill response, we did invite them to come, we create the platform. Let's go together to an oil spill investigation, for instance. Let's go see what happened, see how people are working in the field. And we create that opportunity for that relationship to happen. And it sort of helps, douse tension, bring awareness, give clarity as to what is happening. And of course, enable us to take feedback. Where, okay, all right, you're doing well, but you could do better this way. And so we're open to those kind of feedbacks. And it overall helps the business improve its processes and performance. And we think that is very good.
How does Renaissance, and by Renaissance, I mean the NGO relations team, ensure that the outcomes of these engagements are sustainable and not just one-off gestures?
So we do that by sustaining those engagements. We don't make it a one-off engagement. We plan periodic and regular engagements with our various stakeholders. We have annual events. We have periodic reviews where we sit with them and review. We have stakeholder engagement, that we have from time to time. That way, we're able to take feedback. We work on those feedbacks, and in our next review, for instance, we report back on some of those feedbacks, and then we'll try to see what they think about what we're doing. And I think that is really helpful because that kind of sustainable relationship overall helps us to fine-tune our processes. Okay. We've also seen a reduction, I must say, in terms of hostile activities, So, because what happens is if your publics are complaining and you're not listening, then they will take next steps that may be very hostile or detrimental to your business. But we've seen, a reduction in what we may call adverse reactions. Yeah, because we take those complaints and as they come in, we try to answer them. And we want to use the opportunity also to speak to every part of the business to say, look, where there are concerns, where there are complaints, please don't dismiss the complaints. Look at them. You can come to us. We can provide you with professional guidance on how to relate where you do not understand, but address those concerns. Concerns have to be addressed. They don't have to be swept under the carpet. No, we want concerns to be addressed. When they are addressed, what you see is collaboration. And in most parts, our stakeholders just want us, they want to be in our space. It's an inclusive relationship that they want us to build, not one that sort of pushes them away. But we must understand that everyone has got a part to play in the business. Of course, the oil and gas business is what provides most of the revenue for the country. So the government is interested. At national level, at state level, even at local government levels. They're all interested in what you're doing because it sort of circles back to how money comes in the pocket. Therefore, everybody's interested in supporting us. And we realize that. And for us as NGO relations, we want to engage those NGOs also that are interested in what they do. Even those that are sometimes a bit, antagonistic in the way they approach it, we still discuss with them. Because the ultimate aim is to find solution to build better relationships. And that's how we go about this.
In this Canvas and Niger-Delta Roundtable, we're discussing Beyond the Barrel, Renaissance's Community Renaissance. My guest is Francis Asuk, Crisis Management Advisor with the NGO Relations team at Renaissance. We go for a break now. We'll return in a moment. The conversation does continue. Do please stay with us.
In the heart of our journey, where the sun touches the earth and the wind whispers through the trees, a new chapter unfolds. A chapter where energy illuminates more than just bulbs. It lights up minds. A chapter of unity, a coming together with a common goal to energize futures and illuminating lives. In classrooms, young dreams evolve, inspired by the promise of a brighter tomorrow fueled by available energy. Small businesses flourish, becoming seeds of prosperity. Energy that empowers and is catalyst for growth and change. The future is energy. So, let's light up the path to a sustainable future together. Energy for you, me, and the world at large. Energy for people and planet. We are Renaissance.
Welcome back to Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, brought to you by Renaissance. I'm Dyer, and we're discussing Beyond the Barrel, Renaissance's Community Renaissance. My guest is Francis Asuk. You're welcome once again.
Thank you very much, Dyer. Good to be with you.
At Renaissance, community development is very key to the business. Even you have iterated that and reiterated in the course of this conversation. How do NGO partnerships ensure that this happens? Because once again, as mentioned before, the company has got several community relations teams. We have ACDT, this is law, now no longer the GMOU era where it was philanthropy. We have the social performance, social investments team as well, also ensuring that they, as much as possible, bring about community development and all of that. No doubt the company is committed to this. The engagements that your team, NGO Relations, embarks on, what is the process? How does it ensure that these community development schemes and programs and initiatives do see the light of day and are successful?
Thank you very much. Let me say something about social performance and social investment. Social performance is social responsibility. It's law. It's what you have to do. For instance, if you engage in dredging activities and the water, there's some turbidity in the water bodies, there are things you need to do to enable restoration, for instance, and you do them. That's performance, right? Mm. If there's an oil spill, you have to do cleanup, and you do it. That's performance, right? You sort of had to do what you need to do by law to ensure that the environment is how it ought to be. So we do all of that. Then we go ahead to do investment. Social investment speaks to what we do, the money we bring out from our pocket additionally to help the system, to help our environment. And we have quite a number of that in the area of healthcare, education, for instance. And that we've been running one of the most robust scholarship schemes in Nigeria. I mean, we offer thousands of scholarships every year at various levels. We have the Cradle to Career schemes. So this is what we do as part of our investment initiatives. And I'm glad with what we're doing. A lot has happened in that space. And one of the things we've done there is to help build capacity for Nigeria and for the business. So that's happening. The other bit of one of the things we do in NGO is also to also collaborate with those NGOs to enable us look at the systems. For instance, when we do social or environmental impact assessment or some of those sessions, we collaborate with NGOs, development NGOs, to come help us look into what we plan to do. So, for instance, either in Yenagoa or in Port Harcourt in Abuja, so we invite, some of these NGOs, they come sit with us and spend a day or two to sort of help us look into those processes, look at what we plan to do, and make useful suggestions. That's part of the things that we do. So as NGO relations, we interface with those NGOs directly. We bring them into our space. We get them to be part of what we do. And that way we're not exclusive in what we're doing. We're sort of consulting with a broad spectrum of stakeholders, which also includes communities. When we have such social impact assessments or broad initiatives, we get them to be part of it. The other bit also where the NGOs also help is, when we like development NGOs, where we do some of these programs, in terms of community-based programs. Even the HCDT, we have NGOs that support, capacity building in the communities. Because we also realize that communities don't have the same strength in terms of that development agenda. You may have in one community, a full retinue of professionals. In another community, you may not have, that same number. So we have NGOs that work with us to help, in do community mapping, impact assessments, sort of help train the community and build their capacity, to be able to work development. Development is not a very easy subject, I must say, as simple as it sounds. It takes a lot of careful work. You have to work a plan. Sometimes you must develop a community need, do a needs assessment. Now, those are primarily not our bread and butter, as Renaissance. But we have to get NGOs that understand needs assessment, that understand social impact assessment, that understand all of these. And then we get them in to help us work the process. Work with communities, sit with communities to identify what their needs are and to help prioritize the needs, and then help them chart a roadmap, maybe a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year roadmap, so that at the end of the day, we're able to strike what looks like, balance, even development. And you do know that in the community, typically, for instance, there are various interests, that if for instance, you have maybe a 200 million you want to put in a community for development, and you walked into the community group and said, what should we do first? You understand that the chief probably will want a palace, the chief's palace to be renovated. You agree with me? The women will say, okay, can we have the markets done? The youth will say, no, we need a youth center. Yeah, and then, the men, for instance, may ask for something. It then needs a professional who is adept at needs assessment to be able to walk that patch with the communities, to be able to identify and then set up a roadmap, for the community development, which will guide implementation. So these kind of things, the NGOs play very significant roles, and we're happy that they do a good job at it. We relate with them in those areas. Sometimes we also have environmental NGOs that help us identify where we have new projects, for instance. There are sensitive habitats. NGOs like Pro Natura International, they work with us, so they help to look at the environment, to identify where, there are endangered species and so on, and then help us to create a profile of the area so that before the technical team move in, we're able to decide what to do with and how to protect those sensitive habitats and so on. So in these ways, these NGOs play a very significant role in helping the overall balance of what we're going to do, what we're doing. And we find them very useful in what we do. And so those processes, we go through them methodically, step by step. We don't rush them. And that way, the outcomes are very positive. And even when we meet challenges, we're able to also find solutions jointly. We co-create solutions. We engage. The NGOs that are also specialists in community stakeholder engagement. Not everybody can walk into a community and create relationship or build relationships. We will have NGOs that are specialists, that specialize in stakeholder engagement, different types of stakeholders, I must say, of course. And then, so they're able to work with these stakeholders to identify their needs and then to sort of bring them into our space. And we're able to work that patch together. In the area of education, we're also doing that also. I mean, we collaborate, as you know, with the various institutions and so, to sort of help us, build the capacity of our communities, and also to give opportunity for the academics to come into the space, and then they do that partnership. Yeah.
How does your team navigate the balance between corporate goals and community expectations, especially in regions or communities with a historic, hostility or tensions?
Well, we first of all, we must recognize that these situations exist. We must not live in denial. We must understand where you have community tension, for instance, where you have impacted communities, where you have, I'm looking for that right word that we need to do. Communities have internal tension, we try to ensure that we are careful in engaging. Because if you don't, you might just create more problems. So what we do is to ensure that we bring in the experts or the professionals who understand this, and to go in and help build that relationship. And where there's trust, where trust is broken down, we also find sometimes it does result in delay. The activity that is planned may be delayed, and we do understand that. And again, it's part of our role to advise the business to say, hey, this community we want to go and work in, it's a fragmented community. They have this, in some communities you may have as much as 5-6 paramount rulers all in one community. Do you understand? Mm. Again, each group protecting their various interests. And so if you're going to work in such communities, again, we have to find a way to be able to have that understanding. And it's a bit difficult. It's not always easy to bring everybody to the table. But again, we take time to work with them to ensure that we achieve community harmony and a common purpose before we go in. So it's not an easy job, I must say, but we sort of find a way around it. And because at the end of the day, you don't want to be seen as the one that is exacerbating the already tense situation in the communities. Like we say, we're there we want to be part of the solution and not the problem.
Are you always able to align the company's goals
difficult
with community expectations?
It's not every time you achieve that, But again, to a certain degree, you should. What you want is for us, and where it's completely impossible for us to be able to align, so we advise the business to stay back and then let things sort itself out, because you don't want to go into a community where there's tension. No, that's not. We're not producing a barrel at all costs. So we make the communities realize that the business we are doing is for the benefit of everybody, and therefore, if they can't work with us, then it's difficult. But we try as much as possible to create that atmosphere to enable them work with us. We're going to have operatives, production guys going into the communities to work in and out. And we want that friendly, we want harmony, we want friendship in the course of doing this business, which ultimately the communities benefit from it in cash. The state governments benefit, the local governments benefit, the federal government benefits, everybody benefits. Therefore, it's important that we all join hands together in the baking of the pie.
Speaking of joining hands together, what are the metrics for determining the success of your team's engagements with NGOs who, as you mentioned previously, are essentially part of the community? How do we measure success of these engagements?
Well, it's feedback. when the feedback is positive, you know that you're doing well. When it's negative, you know there's something you have to change. And then you also check the number of successful programs you've been able to deliver in the communities. If you set out to, for instance, build a school within the next 1 year, and it's taking you 5 years to build one school, then you know that there's something wrong. You understand? Or want to build a market, or want to build a health center. Or sometimes we look at the spread of the communities that we've put out in the community. We must understand that in most cases, the needs of the communities are high, are many. And in many cases, the business is like the visible government on ground. And sometimes the volume, the funds available to be able to do all of this may not be there. So we then prioritize what can we do with what is available. And then that's where that collaboration comes in. All right, so community, let's come together. You have 5 projects. We don't have money for 5. We have money for 1 or 2. Which one should come first? And when we're able to deliver that, yeah, and you see the number of celebrations that we jointly deliver. I mean, in terms of health, in terms of education projects, in terms of the schools that we have commissioned, bridges, etc. These are the kind of things that So we actually put down in terms of number of projects that we're able to deliver, hand over to communities. We count the numbers sometimes, and then we overall the community, the goodwill of the communities, are they still welcoming? And if you look at what has happened with Renaissance for just a few months, you see that there's a lot of goodwill. We've been engaging. The leadership of this company has been engaging at the highest level, at state government levels, at local government levels, at individual highnesses and so on. We're engaging. So all what we're doing is to sort of ask the communities to work with us, to support us, to help us to create a kind of future that it's desirable for both the community and the business. So that's what we're looking at. And we think that we're making good progress.
In spite of all the goodwill and the good intentions of the business as well, do the NGOs and by extension the communities understand it is not the responsibility of the organization to replace or take over government presence in our communities?
Yeah, that's a message we have to continue sharing. I mean, because sometimes it's sad to say that sometimes the business is the only visible presence that you see in terms of projects. But again, we must say today, we keep saying that, and we inform the NGOs and remind them that, look, the business of the business is the business, primarily. But again, in doing so, as responsible members of the society, we must do what we have to do. We do what is provided for, I mean, in the HCDT, for instance, in terms of the percentage commitment. And then we work additionally by way of social investment opportunities. When that is not enough, we need partners to help also engage with the government and other development agencies to help, also do more for the communities, because we certainly are not able to do all that the community needs.
What are some of the upcoming projects or focus areas of the NGO relations team of Renaissance that we can all watch out for?
Yeah, so certainly you look out to see more collaboration in programs that we're going to have with the likes of the Nigerian Network of NGOs. We're going to be having that. We intend to also pushing forward our human rights programs, training programs within the organization. We're going to be discussing more with staff, training more in terms of business and human rights. It's part of our sustainable business roadmap. There's a roadmap that we're driving in the next 1 year to raise awareness. We do human rights trainings. We're going to do more in a focused way to enable staff gain awareness. We'll drive awareness. Part of the areas we also look at is to build stronger partnerships with some of these institutions like the National Human Rights Commission. We're going to have periodic engagements with them. Already we have started. That's part of the mandate that have been given to us. We'll have these engagements externally with them to sort of bring them to understand what we do, bring them on our side of what we do, so that they have understanding and they collaborate with us. We have CRISP, as part of the Renaissance focus, collaboration is there, respect is there, integrity is there. safety is there, performance is there. So we want to be able to demonstrate to all our stakeholders that CRISP is not just a mantra, but it's something that Renaissance intends to drive as its own business focus. And so we'll call on staff, management and staff to participate in those programs when they come along and to take interest in them and don't just to be an ambassador for the business. Wherever you are, do what is right, be positive, and then engage positively. And we will see the good results that this will all give us.
You described how there are constant engagements with the National Human Rights Commission, other conglomerations, if you will, of NGOs, totaling about 3,000 or more across the country. But then again, NGOs are constantly springing up, with the interest of our communities, our people. For NGOs that in the past may not have had an opportunity for collaboration or engagement with your team, is the door still open? Is the door open for NGOs to relate?
Yes,
and how can they go about doing that?
So when they get in touch with us, we put them in our database. When we have activities that we need to engage with them, we invite them, we inform them. And by the way, we do not only engage locally, we also engage internationally. We also participate in programs of the UN Global Compact, the UN United Nations Forum on Business and Human Rights, which is indeed part of the global body that sort of helps understand internationally what happens and how human rights and business connects. We also participate in those programs. That way, it helps us to understand what's happening globally and then be able to apply locally. These NGOs that are new, of course, they've been contacting us. Of course, the NGOs are springing up every day. As they spring up, as they let us know their area of interest, if it aligns with our business expectations, we collaborate with them. So for instance, we may not be working with an NGO that is planning how to go to the moon. That may not be part of our business activity. But those ones that are interested in what we do and want to collaborate with us, we bring them in. And like I said, in the next few months, we'll see more and more activities in that space. We just call on all who are interested in what we do to just connect with us. Thank you.
What would you say to NGOs on how best the collaboration and engagements can bring about positive impact, especially for our communities? And I say that but with particular reference to some NGOs who, it's been said, perceive that the best way to engage is to be hostile. What would you say to such NGOs?
Yeah, so we said to them that, look, if you have concerns, let us know. We may not have all the solutions to it. I must say that sometimes the answers are not easy. The conversations may be difficult, For instance, there are some NGOs that have been, very angry with us and try to blame us for oil spills when, individuals are deliberately hacking the lines, damaging national assets, spilling oil in the environment, If you look at the number of spills that is as a result of third-party actions in this country, it's mind-boggling. It's shameful, to put it in mildly, that individuals who own things can deliberately attack their facilities, for instance. And then at the end of the day, some NGOs decide to turn around and you blame the business, to say it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. And then you try to block us, you try to be hostile. What we advise is to say, look, that's not the way to go. If there are concerns, bring it to our attention. We commit to work with you to find solutions. Demonstrations are never the answers, because at the end of the demonstration, you will still sit around the table to discuss them. Some NGOs actually engage in what it's called name and shaming in there. You just keep, you go there and block and go to the media and shout around that. Yeah, a lot of that happened in the 90s and the 80s and so on. But in terms of international NGO relations, people have moved on. it's become clear even in the NGO world that you don't use that tactics to sort of, if you like, grandstand business into answering you. No, you collaborate, you engage, you discuss, and where there are concerns, those concerns are resolved. As a business, we are open to discussing with every stakeholder. Where there are concerns, we'll find solutions to them. If we don't have solutions, we go look for where we find those solutions. At the end of the day, what we want is, to have that collaborative environment. So we'll advise them to please talk to us, talk with us, engage us. We have our access, if you go to our website, you see our numbers and so on, they are available. And we're willing to speak with you and then to find the answers. If you have a question in any part of the business, come to the NGO relations team. We will go and find out who is responsible for that. Whether it's on land acquisition, or it's on payment of compensation, or it's on a new project that is coming on, or it's on an existing project, or your community is not carried along, or you think that you've not been paid what is due you, for instance, or you're asking for something new, or you want to partner with us, for instance. You don't have to break the pipelines to achieve that. You come and speak to us, and then we'll find solutions. We think through with you and go and ask who should provide this solution for your needs, and we are willing and available to do that.
If you could leave a message with the audience on the future of Renaissance's corporate community relations, what would that message be?
I would say we are crisp. Renaissance is new, and we are a Nigerian company, and we are focused on Africa. We want to demonstrate that a Nigerian company can excel beyond Nigeria. I mean, let me tell you, Dio, Nigeria has got quite a number of, we're seen as a country with a lot of potentials. And if you look at the quality of Nigerian professionals in oil and gas, playing in different fields globally, it's amazing. And you know that Nigeria know the carry last. We are good. So we want to be able to bring that quality, that Nigerian resilience, that Nigerian go-getting capacity and capability, bring that, all the positive things that you know about Nigeria, we want to bring that into the business and then and see how our country benefits ultimately from it. So we call on all to join us on this exciting journey. Thank you.
Another exciting note, we wrap up this episode of Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. Beyond the Barrel, Renaissance's community renaissance has been a subject matter for this discourse. Thanks to my guest, Francis Asuk, is Crisis Management Advisor, NGO Relations Team with Renaissance Africa Energy Company. Francis, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Dio. Indeed, thanks for having me. I look forward to similar, very, very enriching conversations in future. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye.
I'm Dio. Remember, Canvas Niger-Delta Roundtable was brought to you by Renaissance. Let's keep the conversation going on the various social media platforms. And remember, collaboration, partnership, engagement is always the best way to resolving whatever our challenges or concerns are as we chat a way forward for progress and development of the business, and very important, and especially our communities as well. Bye for now.